Welcome to this week's podcast of Kicking It with Kidneys with your host, Cindy Barclay. Hey, Cindy, take it away.
And hello out there. Kicking It with Kidneys is a forum to discuss topics important to dialysis communities and to provide a legitimate platform for those voices who have been historically suppressed. Now, during episode 6, which was last week, the panelists and I talked about the life-altering challenges of chronic kidney disease. Specifically, that would mean the diagnosis of end-stage renal disease requiring dialysis, the grieving process, the mental, physical, and financial adjustments required to continue with everyday life. Listeners also learned about the interdisciplinary approach clinicians use to help the patient navigate their new normal, and useful tips in how to manage financial responsibilities that affect minorities. In this episode, we're going to focus on a topic that many really aren't comfortable with, and that's discussing body image, intimacy, and sex. You know, a part of good mental and physical health management is to have a positive attitude. That includes becoming comfortable with the changes in your body that are the result of having chronic illness. The group will also answer questions submitted from our audience at the end of the show. Hey, BJ, what is the word on the street?
Well, thanks, Cindy. Each week, our word on the street gives us an inside look at the personal and sometimes complex world of a dialysis patient. But today, they've got some very interesting comments. So let's listen.
A word on the street with Simone.
Hey, Simone. We're out here today talking to dialysis patients, and we asked them, since being on dialysis, has it had any impact on your body image and how you see yourself? And since becoming a dialysis patient, have you found it to affect your intimacy with you or your significant other or your spouse in any way? Here's what they said.
That's a hard one to answer in several different things, but of course, you know, I mean, now it feels different, this type of thing, but I do pretty well. I don't feel any big difference before dialysis or after dialysis. So in fact, to a certain degree, since I had low kidney function for a long time and we treated it with medicine after on dialysis, I think things got actually a little bit better physically, according to the numbers. And yeah, I may have felt a little bit better. So maybe improved. No, pretty old, you know, so there wasn't a lot there to begin with. So but we're still fine. I mean, it's fine, but no big change there.
Well, no, I can tell you that I've been really fortunate with dialysis. Now, I haven't been on it extremely long. I've only been on it since August, so it hadn't been a full year. But for me, the only thing that really bothers me is that on treatment days I can get a little tired. But other than that, you know, the other days it's just like normal, you know. I don't have any differences with, you know, affectionate to my husband or, you know, us spending time together. You know, I haven't had that.
Not really, because I always try to keep a positive mental attitude, you know, about myself. And so I just look at things like this in life as this is just another situation in my life to, you know, make me stronger. So no, I don't look at, because since I've been on dialysis, I've even had to have, due to an accident, I had to have my leg amputated. So, it's just another one of those life lessons that you just learn to deal with and just keep on moving. Again, that is one of those areas where some areas of that may have been diminished, and other area it becomes even more profound. So it's like how when you overcompensate in one area because you don't have it. So for me, I've always been on the romantic type. So, because of dialysis, it does diminish some capabilities. You just learn to do process in a different manner, and you just like, hey, so now it's even better than ever because, whereas it something was taken away, but then it enhanced the love, and we've been together 39 years, so yeah, it's on.
Well, I've been on hemodialysis and on peritoneal, and both of them have their advantages. As far as body images go, the hemo takes off more weight. You don't have to carry around the water, the fluid. But I'm pretty happy with who I am. I'm not overweight or anything. And so there's no major effect. But hemo does have the advantage of removing the water weight. And so I'm normally a pound or two lighter when I'm doing hemo, sometimes 4 or 5 pounds lighter. But when you look good, you look good. We're senior citizens, and the intimacy, changes with time anyway. But no, it really doesn't have an impact on anything. Bottom line is, when you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not. And I can't help it. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
All right, BJ, what say you?
Well, I think it's great that most of our respondents have a good handle on maintaining a positive self-image. And some obviously have found a way to maintain a level of intimacy with their partners, but not everyone may have that experience. And that's what makes this a good topic to talk about.
Well, all right. Well, let's kind of tune in on Marion and Maria. You guys are both nurses. Can you explain some of the physical changes a person experiences after starting dialysis, and explain the ways that might affect a person's appearance? Okay. They also have physical limitations. Can you guys talk about that? Like examples of limitations with sports and sexual activity.
Well, to start with, most patients have to have some type of access. So the temporary dialysis catheter is placed in the upper
I'm
chest.
sorry, when you say access, what do you mean by that?
The temporary catheter, which is a plastic tube that is placed in the, for most people, is placed in the upper chest area. And so you will have this device that exits through the skin. So for some people, they have some concern about that being visible, and that can have some impact on the degree of intimacy that one would be able to experience. There are different items that can be used to provide protection for the temporary dialysis catheter. For those patients that opt to receive their dialysis through a peritoneal catheter, that plastic tube is placed in the lower part of the stomach area, more closer to your intimate parts, if you will. And so, yes, some people do share concern about the degree of intimacy that they experience with having these visible devices present. Maria.
Okay, coming in to expound on, the accesses, you have scarring too from not only the dialysis catheter being placed, sometimes you have to exchange it, put on the other side, as well with the fistula and the graft. That's literally, they're putting, the access under the arm. You will have scarring there. A lot of times I educate my patients when it's time for permanent accesses that they, talk to their surgeon about their physical appearance. Some people don't care. You can get them placed in the upper arms where you can cover them, with short sleeve shirts, or if they're going to be in the lower portion of your arm, you'd have to wear, long sleeve all the time. But not only just with accesses, your skin changes. You have to realize that there's deficiencies in certain minerals and calcium and phosphorus in your body. Your skin can get darker. Your darker skinned people get darker. The fair skinned people get like a yellowish kind of grayish color. Changes with your skin as far as itching and things like that. Remember, these are the things that your kidneys do, and your kidneys regulate these things for your hair. You might start losing hair. But with supplements and things of that nature, talking to your doctor, there's things that can help with that. And it gets better over time as you're doing dialysis. It does get better.
I guess what I would like to know, and I think what some of the patients would like to know, and other people as well, is that, okay, so I'm feeling like we need to be together tonight, if you guys know what I mean. And my hormones are raging. Is that catheter in my chest going to get in the way of anything that needs to go on under the sheets?
Well, what I'd like to say about that is just a reminder that, sex is a good thing.
Yeah, it releases, is it pheromones or hormones, or what does it release? It releases something.
Well, it's good for your immune system. It is good for burning calories.
Okay.
Let me see what else. Lowering your blood pressure, relaxation, relieving pain. So there's good things associated, with sex. And I think we need to keep that at the forefront.
So is that catheter, the one that you're talking about in the neck or the shoulder, that's with hemodialysis, right?
Correct.
Okay, so is that going to interfere with me getting nibbled on the neck? And, if I'm a female, I'm going to need for you to talk to the two little breasts that I have. Okay. Is there going to be a problem with that? I mean, I need you to get intimate with touching.
Well, just move it on out the way. It is what it is. Your dialysis.
I can't move my breast out the way.
You can move the catheter. You can, with the way the catheter is situated, whenever your dialysis nurse dresses it, it is stabilized.
Oh, okay.
So it's not going to be in the way of anything.
Okay. You
have total, access to the breast area, peritoneal dialysis. You can literally sling the catheter to the side. It has to be there. So you have to work with it, but it's not going to impede anything.
So you're saying that my partner and I can work around it?
You can.
Okay. Well, I guess that sounds okay. But Rita, I need for you to kind of give me your take on this. In working with the patients that are experiencing, do you work with patients, or have you seen any patients that have negative body image and poor self-esteem?
Definitely. Dialysis does a trick on your mind, seeing things that are really not there. You think you look horrible, but in reality, your partner sees the same person you've always been. They see the beautiful person you are inside when you can't see that. And like Maria says, sex is normal. People want to be normal. Nobody wants to be a dialysis patient. They're just normal people. It's important to remember that people with kidney failure have healthy marriages. They have meaningful relationships. They can fall in love, have families, be sexual. Staying intimate with those you love is very important. Everyone needs some kind of love. So yeah, I have conversations with our parents. So yes, Maria, you're right. Sex is good for you. It is. It lets off the hormones oxytocin, which improves your mood. Sex can improve your heart health. It reduces stress, depression, anxiety, and it improves your self-esteem. One of the things that I've had to, I talk with the patients about is really communicating with your partner. Things don't work the same. Like you said, you have that catheter, so you have to kind of move it out of the way. So talk about things that you can do together. Health is part of a healthy relationship. Try different things. Spice up your love life. Stretch those boundaries as a couple. Play around. You may need more foreplay than you did before because your body is changing. Men may have problems with erections. Women may have problems with vaginal dryness.
Okay. Well, erectile dysfunction is a major problem with men.
Right, because of medication and stress and anxiety.
Right. And African-American men, I know primarily as far as medications are concerned, some of them, that's how they got in the situation that they're in because they did not take their blood pressure medicine. Okay. So because the blood pressure, what does the blood pressure medicine do to you, Maria or Marion? Why is it that these men are reluctant to take the blood pressure medications?
Well, it affects blood flow to the penis. And
that ain't good.
You have to have blood flow to the penis to have an erection.
Okay, well, are there any type of drugs that they can
There
take?
are. There,
okay.
Viagra, Cialis. I mean, the point of this is like to add to what Rita said, talk to your partner, but also talk to your healthcare provider.
They're reluctant to ask their physicians. They're embarrassed, you know.
And there's no need for that. There's no need for embarrassment because this is part of your life. I mean, it's not like something you can just put down and say, I'm done with sex. You know, that's not something a person wants to do.
That's correct. But it's also, you know, those people you're talking about with marriages and you're going into renal failure, you have that partner already. But there are some people that are single, they're young, they're still trying to be out there. You have to be comfortable with you first before you can, you know, have that relationship with someone else. So that's also something to remember. The whole mental health and the physiological changes that come with dialysis. You have to, you know, become one with that.
BJ, I need for you to basically provide some insight regarding how body image relates to social interactions with others and how can they improve that intimacy with others.
Well, one of the things that Rita pointed out is that it's how that person sees themselves. Body image is subjective. It's what that person feels about their body. And we all have a mental image of what we think we look like and who we are. And we tend to project that image into our demeanor and our interaction with other people. It shows in how we talk, how we walk, how we dress, our facial expressions. And we tend to look for cues from people around us to either reinforce or reject that image that we have of ourselves. So when we think we look good, we expect people to admire us or at least not react in a negative way. And when you have a special condition that requires attention, it's natural that it would have an effect on how you view yourself and how you interact with other people. What we hear from our people on the street is that they have adopted this understanding that being on dialysis is not the core part of who they are. It's not their central identity. And so it doesn't have a negative effect on how they see themselves. As for intimacy, we have to keep in mind that something that has already been stated. Intimacy is developed from communication, understanding, and acceptance of a partner's needs. And while intimacy may not involve, may involve a physical component, that doesn't always have to be sexual. The most important aspect of intimacy is trust. And that's something people tend to develop over time. In intimate relationships, as Maria said, a lot of people are married, so they go into dialysis already having a partner. But even if it's not, if it's a new partner, when you are intimate in that relationship, you should feel free to express your fears and what desires you may have, and then develop this sense of being comfortable with being vulnerable and honest. And so there are a couple of tips that I'd like to share. First of all, don't underplay the benefit of touching and kissing and hugging. There's nothing wrong with the dialysis patient telling their partner after dialysis, I'm tired. So this is a time for us to be close, but not necessarily sexual. But associated with that is schedule time for physical intimacy. The key here is to make this time a priority. Kind of like Aretha said, if this is your time, you know, I love you, but I don't have time to sit and chit chat and smile. I got other things to do. There's also another point that sometimes we get hung up on thinking that romance, we heard one of our respondents say, I'm a romantic guy. We get hung up on this idea that romance is spontaneous. I want people to not forget that anticipation is also very exciting. So schedule that time and look forward to it. And then the last thing we've already stated is communicating with the partner. It's all right for you to let your partner know that you need affirmation and that you're still desirable and attractive, because while it's important that we have self-confidence, we're social creatures and we need to have support from people that are around us. So lastly, as our respondents did indicate, dialysis doesn't have to diminish a person's ability to feel good about themselves and to maintain a sexy attitude.
So let's go to the three. I've got three definitions of love here. I have eros. Is defined as a romantic kind of love. You know, that's the kind of love that makes you want to say I do. And then you have eros. Okay. It's more of a self-serving, self-absorbed, self-indulging type love. You know, these folks have their own agenda. Okay. And then you have philo. This type of love, it develops from a common bond, sort of like a brotherly love. What I'm concerned about is the eros loves, because in relations, you know, marriages and relationships are kind of complicated. You know, if you had problems with him before you got ill, you probably gonna have problems with him or her.
You will.
Right? So what do y'all recommend for those population of individuals that basically have to deal with, I mean, they weren't right before, okay, and now they having all kind of problems with it. You're saying your breath has changed, your body looks different, you know, they don't want to touch certain areas, you know, but there were problems before. How do these type patients deal with that type of beloved one?
Well, I think one of the things that we've talked about is having communication. Communication is the foundation of any relationship. And if you didn't have communication before then, you're probably going to have problems. I mean, I would say it's worth to try. You can try to say, okay, well, now we've entered into another stage. There's another situation that we're dealing with. And I think it will be a decisive point for that couple or those people involved.
Okay. Well, what about after we've talked about it and are there still problems? Do I continue to talk about it, or do I become interested in me and what's going to get me healthy and make me feel better?
I think one of the things is maybe you do need to look at yourself. If you're trying all this stuff with your partner and it's not working, and maybe that you need to do some self-reflecting and make some corrections in yourself. Find that help that you need. I mean, you can't love anyone if you don't love yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And those type of relationships are basically like they just kind of drain you, you know, and you need all that energy to get healthy, you know, as healthy as you can be. Sarita, are you there?
I am here. My mind is just boggled and confused.
What are you confused about, Sarita? What are you confused about today?
I'm listening to all this medical terminology and conversation, and I keep a list of everything that I want in a man when I get married. I'm gonna have to write my own wedding vows, because now I'm rethinking in sickness and in health. That may be something I need to go back and revisit before I commit.
I agree. So tell me, Sarita, let's talk about the income of the average dialysis patient, and basically most of these patients are disabled. Okay.
Yes.
Because they have to go on disability and they're at home a lot. You know,
yes,
what is the average income that these dialysis patients, you know, when the people are on disability, what is their average income?
That's a real interesting question. When I researched that, what I got was in 2020, and this is from the Social Security Administration, $1,259 per month. Now, there are a lot of caveats, and Rita may be able to speak to it a little bit better. But before I get to that, the average household, not talking of the individual, is about $2,224.40. Key takeaways, because there's a period of coordination of benefits, and you also have to work and pay into Social Security, specifically the FICA, within the last 10 years of your illness. And that brought a little concern for me as an entrepreneur. Now, I do pay into the FICA system, but there are a lot of entrepreneurs that do not. And if they're not, and they became ill, then that disability money, and I guess I'm asking Rita, would that be there for them in the same way?
Yeah, if you don't pay in, you can't receive. If you're not paying your stuff, there's no way you're going to get anything, or it may be very diminished.
So what happens with a lower income individual that is on, I guess, food stamps and child support and stuff like that? Are they paying into the system, or they just go Medicaid all the way?
To qualify for Medicaid, we know you have to be under a certain amount of income. So, yeah, you have to be under a certain amount of income. Now, when a patient goes on dialysis and they want to qualify for disability, they have to have paid into the system. If it's a person that's married, they may be able to claim under their spouse. If it's a child, they may be able to claim under their parent. But if I've never paid into the system, I won't be able to get a disability check if I've never paid into the system or somebody's paid into the system on my behalf.
That sounds a little devastating, Sarita. So I guess there's plenty of time to renew your vows at home. With that limited amount of money that you're living on, you got plenty of time to come up with some creative ideas. Shall we recommend any sex toys, Sarita?
I have been looking so forward to this topic, and I was just like, I thought we were going to talk about Hugh Hefner and the porn industry, and we didn't get to any of that.
No, we're not talking about Hugh and the porn industry, but we go into the sex toys because I think that it's an enhancement device. What do you think? If I was getting my my groove on, I might need a little stimulation.
I understand, and I'm not quite sure, but let me explain something.
Let me just say this right quick. Have you gone and priced those sex toys? That's what I want to know. I asked you before the show. I said, Sarita, can you go and find a place and price the sex toys? Have you done that?
Well, Ms. Barclay, I might have passed by there, but I have to explain something to you. In fact, I had this conversation with BJ, and I was telling her in my undergraduate studies, my degree specialization was deviant behavior and social control. So, BJ, I want you to know, after you told me what you did with your students and how you took them out on excursions to experience things, I was so disappointed. I sat down and wrote a letter to my undergraduate college and said, I need all my people's money back for sending me to school because I got cheated in that class.
I think you did because we had fun.
I do. But Ms. Barclay, I tell you, I did actually, in some of my work-related experiences, I was a part of putting together the city ordinance on sexually oriented businesses. So I had the opportunity to go into a number of unique places. And so I've been by to see them. And just depending on what you're purchasing or anything of that nature, you're looking at some devices at $100, some devices maybe at $5 to $10. So they have an enormous range of pricing. So it should be able to fit anybody's budget.
Sarita, I'll help you out a little bit. During my research as well, I did see that Walmart does sell adult toys. And you can buy them online.
What?
And
Walmart?
they're at a reasonable price. I am looking right now, because it's research, a silicone vibrating personal massage wand goes for $20.49.
Okay, I haven't had a massage in a long time. I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to use that, but when I finish the podcast,
Walmart does sell this at an economical price, so apparently everyone can afford it.
Well,
I hope it's not one of
we're going
those
to need to
devices
read the
that fall
specs
apart.
on that, Miss Rita, because we're going to need to read the specs on that because, there people like different things, and so that may be your basic.
During my research, I was not able to get that information, but I'll get back to you on that, okay?
So what if some of our patients have limitations, Sarita? I mean, I'm trying to get a device that's affordable. Anybody can chime in at any time.
You can't get better than that Walmart, that 20, because if you go to Carmen's and all the chains and stuff, you're not going to beat Walmart on that price.
Wait a minute, Maria, you knew the name of the place. Did you say Carmen's?
They're all around the freeways. You can see them everywhere.
So guys, who on the team? We talked about there being a team, an interdisciplinary team last week. So who on the team is in charge of helping patients with their research?
Doctors, social workers, nurses, part of research, folks.
Everybody
Well,
but
I
the
would venture
dietitian.
to say whomever the patient mentions.
That's true. That's true. Whoever they find that bond with.
Exactly.
Okay, so when we're talking about intimacy and touching and loving and, some of these partnerships are long-term and some are not. When a patient is diagnosed with any type of chronic illness, then there's a new revelation for everyone. How do I deal with the spouse or the significant other that no longer sees me as valuable? I mean, I've tried everything. I went to the stores and got the sex toys. I've tried every form of intimacy that I feel comfortable with. Let's put it like that I feel comfortable with, because there are some things that folk ask you to do that's not very inviting. Okay, so I've tried everything and it's still not working. He or she still does not perceive me as being whole. Any recommendations for those type situations?
I think, like you said, as you mentioned, that you as a person, as a couple, have tried everything and exhausted all, things to do. Sometimes you may look at that, like you said, it was a season for that love. Maybe that person is being honest and saying, Rita, this is not something I can handle. I thought I could handle it, and it may not be something. I mean, sometimes you just have to love someone and let them go as well. So, because you can't keep bleeding yourself because you're not what that person wants you to be, because you can't be that person. You've done everything to improve yourself physically, emotionally, all of that. And you cannot improve. You are who you are. Sometimes you have to put that person down, and hopefully you'll find someone else that'll love you for who you are, where you're at.
And I think that's important, Rita, because if you don't, that relationship can turn abusive, mentally as well as physically abusive. So it is much better if this person cannot realistically uphold that commitment.
Right.
It is better to let them go.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, sometimes you just have to let it go and continue your life on your journey.
I wanted to put this in there. Had a patient the other day express to her nurse, has not, expressed it to the rest of the team, that she may be pregnant. She is a dialysis patient. So it is possible, for you to still, be fertile and have children. It does change the process of dialysis a little bit more. You may have to do more frequent dialysis, in that, but it is possible for women to still carry healthy, full-term children.
Okay, so I guess the analogy is that health is sexy. It releases, is it pheromones? Okay.
Sex is healthy.
Sex is healthy. Okay, so I guess that's the analogy. The analogy, and basically you should follow it with your doctor. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is that there are some questions that we need to answer that was sent in on our Facebook. Okay, the first question is this. Are there resources specifically designated for family members or caregivers of dialysis patients? Can someone answer that question?
And are you resources say that you?
I guess they could mean financially as well as support groups, Rita.
Okay. And like you said, there's lots of support groups out there for dialysis patients as well. Let's go to the money like always. Say your parent, say both of your parents are on disability. If you have children under the age of 18, those children can also get a disability check because of their parents, because they're not able to financially support them. I mean, they're not working. Say you are a single mother and you are diagnosed with kidney disease and you go on disability. You have children under the age of 18. They could possibly qualify for a disability as well, like getting a disability check for those children to financially support them. There's food stamps out there for our families. It's for working families. I mean, they need to eat. If they qualify for it, definitely. I always encourage our patients, well, I may not qualify, but it doesn't hurt to, apply for food stamps or any resource out there. It doesn't hurt to do it. If, there's a program that could help you with your electricity or anything. Well, Rita, I may not, but it doesn't hurt to apply. So yes, there's lots of programs out there. It's just really getting to the point, either talking with your social worker, or getting her to help you or him to help you, or really taking it on upon yourself as a patient and filling out those applications.
Okay. This question is from Paul. It says, in a previous episode, you talked about needing a partner for home dialysis and to be trained, but you also said that a home health care aide, it has to be specialized so that she would not qualify or he would not qualify to assist me. What's the difference in the training between family and friends and a semi-professional individual? Marion?
Well, with training, if I understand the question correctly, if you have someone that's just your partner, husband, daughter, or whoever, they have not been medically trained versus someone that does have medical experience. If they do not have dialysis specific training and experience, the training should be the same. You're looking for infection control that person has to learn, emergency procedures, and general connect and disconnect procedures. So regardless of if you have medical training, if you do not have dialysis specific training, that medical and caregiver, they need to undergo the same training for dialysis, if I'm explaining that right.
So Marion, I think what Maria is saying is that you can train a family and a friend as long as you're supported by a dialysis facility or a dialysis nurse. Is that what she's saying?
Right. Yes, I also want to add to what Maria was saying, the importance of your selection when you're considering your support system for the dialysis treatments. You need someone who can identify and respond to emergency situations, someone who can remain calm and can be reassuring to you as well.
And someone reliable, because you've got to get on that machine.
Yes.
So if they're not going to be there, you're in trouble. So make sure that person is reliable as well.
Okay, well, Sarita, this is from Joanne. Okay, I think Joanne wrote in last week as well. And she wants to know, are there particular types of employment you would recommend for a dialysis patient? Now, I guess we're looking at the blue-collar worker versus the white-collar worker and basically the availability of jobs. Can you touch on that?
Well, I would just say to Joanne, it depends on what her physical limitations are. I think a job is a job, and a person is not or a company is not allowed to discriminate on the basis of you being on dialysis. But sometimes, and I'm not sure, not being a medical professional, whether there are limitations on the placement of the catheter or what have you. So it could be a work from home setting if she feels more comfortable in that. It could also be something in the administrative arena. I probably would think that you would stay away from anything that requires heavy lifting of any sort. So I think I'd have to have a little more information from Joanne, and hopefully she's listening so she can write back to me and let me know a little more about her circumstances, and then I may be able to offer her some more detailed information.
Our next question is from Keisha, and she has this question for you, Rita. She says, as a dialysis patient, am I covered under the Disabilities Act? I guess she's talking about the Disabilities Act of 1972, where they made that amendment that allowed for benefits for dialysis patients. And she says, can I apply for SSI benefits?
She can. She is covered under that. Renal disease is under that umbrella. It is an automatic qualifier. But back to what Scarsborough was saying, if they haven't paid in, then there may be an issue. But she may have her husband that could help her with that, because remember, it's all about who has paid in to disability, because that all falls under the umbrella for Social Security. But yes, she can. She can apply for assistance. She can apply for her disability. They'll take her application, they'll evaluate it and let her know if she qualifies or not. Yes.
Just to follow up on what Rita said, you can also calculate your potential disability online through the Social Security Administration. And if it's an individual that is not tech savvy, they may want to write this number down, 1-800-772-1213. And that's the number to the Social Security Administration. They'll be able to help her in getting that application started and calculating the benefits and working through the process with her.
Okay, and we're going to start with BJ. And your final thoughts need to be focused primarily regarding intimacy and how any advice that you have for folks when they're having challenges or difficulties with intimacy.
Well, with intimacy, again, the foundation of that is communication. One of the things we've said before is that partners have to understand that dialysis means life. And so being alive is sexy. People are alive and they're sexy, and supporting their loved one and letting them know that, no matter what, I'm still attracted to you. And as our respondent said, sometimes you have to find different ways. This is a time to be creative.
All right. Maria.
All right. I just think it's, again, important to remember sex is natural, sex is normal, sex is good, and make sure that you are talking to your healthcare team. There are resources out there for men and women undergoing dialysis at this time, and just be real, just be vocal, and there are solutions.
All right. Marion.
And be open. Be open. That's what I would say. This is not the time to be reserved. This is the time to explore and be open. Explore with your mate.
Okay, and you can just verbalize what you need, Maybe you may have to do something that you've never done before, So I like that. Sarita, what do you have to say?
I'm going to keep it real simple, Ms. Barclay. Have more sex. It sounds like everybody is talking about the benefits of it. So, maybe this needs to become a new law. But speaking of which, you know that Viagra is paid for by the insurance company, right?
Oh, no, you didn't.
So, men, if you're having a particular problem...
You are right, Sarita. It does pay for it.
So, let's get with the insurance company. Let's get some Viagra. Let's start exploring some different options. And write me about that and let me know about creativity, because I hear all of these words, but what is creativity now? Come on.
Okay, Rita, what do you say about the women that have dry? Should they talk with their gynecologist?
Definitely.
If they get a little dry.
If they get a little dry down there, don't worry. There's some help. There's no need to have any pain during intercourse or sex.
Okay.
So go out, talk to your gynecologist, and get that cream. So my final
Rita,
thought. Yes, ma'am.
Is that available at Walmart too?
You can get it filled at Walmart, but there's over-the-counter lubricants. Just go in there.
Okay. And what are your final thoughts?
Well, just chronic kidney disease brings about certain physical changes. We know that. And there's many of them. But at the core, like BJ say, you are still you. Reclaim your identity and redefine yourself. And be a person on kidney disease and share your life fully. Live your life to your fullest. Don't let kidney disease define you.
All right. So that sounds to me like quality without quantity. How do they put that? Quantity without quality is unsatisfactory, and nobody wants to be dissatisfied. All right. So next week topics, we're going to be talking about now that I've started dialysis, where do I go from here? We hope that you've enjoyed the show, and we look forward to you joining us next week on Kicking It with Kidneys.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Kicking It with Kidneys with your host, Cindy Barclay. See you next week. The views expressed on this podcast are educational and opinion-based. These are not medical doctors.
Be sure to catch us on social media on our website, kickingitwithkidneys.com, also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.